High spots and cheap pops. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Silicon Steve Valley with my partner in crime in the world of professional wrestling, not in sexual experiences.
Hardly.
Put it out there.
Yep.
My man, Vladi Dadi, how are you? Are you excited for our brand new segment, which we've organically come up with anyway?
I am so excited for it, and this is totally organic, and I'm loving it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Vladi Dadi's Dynamite Review. He may be wrong, he may be right. It's Vladi Dadi's Dynamite. He may be wrong, he may be right, but it's Vladi Dadi's Dynamite Review. He's gonna shit on it.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, listen, as we were discussing in pre-production here, this was taking place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Should have been a hot crowd, but at certain points of the show, I felt like they might have passed out some ambience to these.
Well, let's get into that a little bit, because when we went into pre-production, we thought we were recording. So we call that
Take two.
A dress rehearsal.
Yes.
In Philadelphia, usually the crowd was not. There were moments where I thought it was very good, but I didn't. But it wasn't a Chicago crowd that we've seen, or a Long Island crowd either.
That's definitely true, and I usually expect a lot of like energy from a Philadelphia crowd. I don't really feel it was there for much of the show. I'm not going to give you a percentage or anything, but
you know what? They haven't been noticeably more rowdy either in WWE land either. I would suggest as well.
Well, here's the test. Extreme Rules will be there.
Aha!
And that's coming in within a week, so we'll be able to compare. I was thinking that as I watched this atrocious show on Wednesday night, which all started with everybody's favorite Ring of Honor champion, Chris Jericho, the Ocho, not to be confused with El Ocho, because we didn't want to be too Spanish about it, right? All dressed in purple with his Jericho Appreciation Society, along with none other than Luigi Prima, pizza man extraordinaire and part-time wrestler, I guess.
Primo, sir. Primo,
whatever. So now the second time we're being graced with this guy's presence on national TV, and then Warner Brothers might be just sitting there and be like, do we really want to give this guy all this money and all this ability to make money for us? Or he's got a pizza guy in there for 2 weeks in a row, like, really.
And the thing is, you already have Danhausen or even Cassidy. Cassidy's more of a player, but you already have enough of that in your show already.
Yes.
You don't need any more of it. I just remembered about the women's interview segment. Wow, that's going to be rough during this Vladi Dadi's Dynamite Review.
Yeah, it was really bad, man. It was really bad.
Well, we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So, so that bothered me that the pizza guy was out there. Okay, they're all dressed in purple. And then here's the thing. Jericho, the best part about it during the segment was none other than Bryan Danielson coming out, right? And again, why is this guy not having the Ring of Honor world title, not having the AEW world title? Why doesn't he have any titles at this point? Instead, he's battling over the soul of Daniel Garcia, who is nothing but Wheeler Yuta Part B, you understand what I'm saying? This is too many of these guys that are around, and you're taking what should be your focal point, fighting with Jericho again, because he has to be in the middle of everything, looking and trying to get the soul of Daniel Garcia. And I'm not saying Daniel Garcia isn't a decent wrestler, but I'm not saying but what I am saying, he's not a main event sort of draw and shouldn't be involved in it, or the pinnacle, if you will, of some sort of issue between main eventers at this point. Okay, and this is what's bothering me with this. So you get Danielson there, and he fights Daddy Magic or whatever, Magic Daddy Menard, right? Who's also another borderline comedian himself with his antics, right? So that leads it off. And actually, I was like, I cannot believe they're leading this off and giving Bryan Danielson this guy to go and wrestle against. It's a little bit annoying. right? So we got to go sit
I
through
like
that.
those guys. I like that. I don't know if I love the names. Cool Hand Ange and Major Dick Matt LeBlanc or whatever his name is.
At LeBlanc, he was on Friends, right?
Which one? He was Joey, right? He was Joey.
Yeah, I never watched Friends.
Yeah. The other one, Matt
Menard.
Perry.
Matthew Perry, yeah.
Matthew Perry. He was Chandler.
See, Thursday nights I'd go out. It was college, like, and we didn't have DVR, so.
Well, you're a couple years older than me, pal.
Well, you were still drinking, H. You were watching Friends? Come on.
I was never. I just know the actors. I never really got into Friends myself.
Okay. Well, the best part of this thing, I'll say, is this Regal on commentary. That's gold.
Always.
Him just pushing buttons and then just flirting with Excalibur. Give me that the whole show. I'm good with that.
What did he say to him this past week? You are wonderful.
He was like flirting with him. It was great, man.
All right, who wants to give the Dazzler a kiss on the mouth? That was such a great story on one of William Regal, actually with Chris Jericho, as a matter of fact. Great story he told.
Then the next thing we had after of course, Danielson wins. I shouldn't even say of course, because he tends to lose a little bit more than for my liking there, right? So he ends up winning.
He only has 5 losses, though.
Only?
There are a couple weird ones, though.
Yeah, they usually involve Jericho or people related to Jericho. It's ridiculous. So then we got, of all people, MJF comes out in a Mets jersey in Philadelphia. Good way to get heat. Typical MJF stuff. But the other flip side of that coin is that Wheeler Yuta's in the ring trying to cut a promo and is screeching through this thing and does not have a voice to cut a promo, is what I'm quickly realizing about this young man.
I actually thought it was better than I thought it was better than I expected.
He was very pitchy, dog. His voice was cracking, squeaking.
It still was better than I expected because I didn't expect a lot from him, I guess. So I wasn't disappointed with Yuta. These guys have wrestled hundreds of times, not literally, but there's a nice little. I think this is a nice little rub. MJF is trying to get Wheeler Yuta. Obviously, Yuta's losing this little feud.
Oh yeah,
but they're probably buddies. There's some respect there. He put Wheeler Yuta over big time. That's all it is. I'm not going to go crazy about this little angle. Just keep MJF busy attacking one of John Moxley's boys, still looming kind of over Moxley. I still don't get what he's doing with the title, though. Is it like cash money in the bank? Like, I don't understand. He keeps on threatening like he's going to cash it in, like after a match. Like, what?
Yeah. They haven't really been concise with what the deal is there. I'm assuming it's eventually just going to come down to Full Gear, right? So, and then of course Colton and Austin Gunn come out because they're with the firm, faction by proxy or faction. What do they call that? On what was the term that they used?
Faction for hire.
Yeah, was that? Yeah, faction for hire for MJF.
Faction on retainer.
That's it, on retainer. So they came out, and then after that we had none other than the AEW World Championship match, which probably excited you, but for me, I gotta say, Moxley versus Juice Robinson. Why does he deserve a title shot for the AEW World title?
Well, it was a championship contenders match, which I thought were lame in WWE. I don't think they're any cooler here. So,
okay,
it was a championship eliminator match. Their eliminator matches are their championship contender matches. So I don't believe the title was on the line.
Okay.
But I will say they've faced each other a number of times, and this was easily the least. It was a decent match, but it was easily the least inspiring of the ones that they've had previously.
One thing I'm coming to realize with Moxley is I appreciate his matches more when he stays inside the ring. If he's outside and just wrestling with furniture and just looking to bleed all the time, he starts losing my interest.
Yeah.
But if he stays inside the ring, I'm like, okay, there's some psychology here. I'm like into So yeah, then Moxley ends up winning that match. And then from there, what did you have? None other than the Golden Ticket Grand Slam Battle Royale winner, Hangman Page, arrives. Doesn't say anything. They just look at each other ominously, right? And then we have a bit of a scuffle between MJF and Yuta in the stands or up in the box over there, right?
Yeah.
So again, I'm like a little bit disappointed. Like I'm hoping like Page and Moxley will be saying something to each other, but they just have that real close personal space sort of stare down. Well,
Which they do a lot, but
yeah,
they all do that a lot, though. That's just part of wrestling.
Yeah. So then from there, after Yuta goes and beats up on MJF, comes the return of Saraya, none other than also known as Paige Saraya, Saraya, whatever.
Well, I mean, if you beat off to one of her videos, you should be able to get her name right.
So formerly known as Paige in WWE, she goes and makes a huge announcement, basically saying she's the Revolution, which I have no hope at all that she's going to go and change this women's division at all.
Yeah.
None. It was a very clunky sort of promo. We're going to go bring out all these people. Britt Baker comes out with her crew, has some pointed words for her, not half bad. And then all of a sudden you have a lumberjack match.
Baker is the only thing that keeps that division even remotely respectable. It's even that.
Well, I would say Jamie Hayter as well, but they misuse her tremendously.
I think they're going to fix that, but who knows?
Wait, well, no. How are they going to fix it when it could have been fixed? Instead of like having her realign herself with Britt Baker, like why would they go and have her join forces with Britt Baker again after they've gone and had these like little like separations?
They've done that twice with them too.
Exactly. Enough is enough, and you have the fans chanting for Hayter.
Yeah. Like
Tony Khan doesn't pick up on who he should be rolling with. He's so deaf to it. Like somebody needs to sit next to him, like nudge him, be like, "You hear that? That's the fans reacting to one of your stars. You need to start like running with that."
And that's as long as that's what we killed Vince for years and years and years and years, for not following what the fans want. But yet Tony's getting a pass by a lot of the AEW faithful.
Yes.
Tony deserves to get it just as bad as Vince did. People want to see FTR on your programming. Put them on. People want to see Jamie Hayter go ascend, separate from Britt Baker and become a big star. Do it. Just do the things that the fans want, Tony. It's really, really not that hard. Okay? Stop. Look, Vince was in his 70s when he started doing that kind of bullshit. You're supposed to be the Booker of the Year. Meltzer made you Booker of the Year the last 2 or 3 years. If you're this damn good, you'll be able to figure this out. Listen to the crowd. Have them cheer for you. Here's the thing. Listen to the crowd, Tony. It's real simple. It's really not. You did it with the Acclaimed. He knows what he's doing. He does it often, but he's got to do it more consistently now. Now it's go home, make it or break it here.
And let me say this. You mentioned the Acclaimed, right? They had their big win at the Grand Slam, win the world titles. So what does the Booker of the Year do? He goes and books him for Rampage. That's idiotic. And now look at your ratings. Your hottest thing you going to put on the Friday night show. But we got plenty of Jericho.
Well, we're going to get into that, folks. So keep on going, Vladi, because this is going to be very eye-opening to the way Tony Khan, and we did text about this, very eye-opening to the way Tony Khan has got to stop booking his episodes. And we'll get into it. But go ahead. Keep going.
So then we go backstage to Matt Hardy approaching Private Party of all people, because that needs to be revisited.
Well, this time Matt is trying to be more. He's trying to redeem himself until his brother comes back.
Okay. And again, he can redeem himself, but why is Private Party and getting more television time to FTR still? We don't know. You and I don't know.
It
We're
doesn't
just
really
stating
make a lot of sense.
Yeah, we're just stating the obvious at this point, right? So then
I think
after
he's trying to get everybody involved, and because FTR has championships and they're really popular, he feels like they can afford to not be on TV. But Tony, it's not not what your fans want. Do what the fans want.
Right. And they're popular in spite of Tony Khan at this moment.
Yeah, 100%. And they know that.
Yeah. I've rarely seen any. I don't even know if I've ever seen anything like that. Bless you. So after that segment with the Private Party, we cut to Absolute Ricky Starks. He has a squash win. I was cool with it. He needs something like that. It was a real quick win, high energy as well. The crowd was into it. I'm good with that, right? So then we get to this, and this is where a bit of my issue with Tony Khan, right? We led off with Jericho, and now we're ending with Jericho against Bandito. And I know you're going to say something about Bandito here, but before you get to that, let me just make this one point. What show am I watching?
AEW Dynamite on TBS.
Very right. 100% right. But for some reason, the Ring of Honor World Championship is main eventing on an AEW show and has taken up 2 segments at this point. I have an issue with that. And again, this is Jericho's influence. And to me, he pretty much helped book that show. This had his fingerprints all over it. And no Wardlow, right? No FTR. Guys that people want to see. No Acclaimed. They could have easily been in that main event instead. But I digress. I've said enough. I'll turn it over to you as your thoughts about Jericho versus Bandito. That was the main idea I wanted to give you about that.
Well, it ties directly into the ratings.
Yeah.
And Vladi Dadi, we go through the ratings and we see where I think it started around 1 million, a little over 1 million. And your main event, the biggest part of your show, that's supposed to be the most talked about part of your show, the one that you want people to stick around and watch, you have Chris Jericho, who is a little oversaturated, starting to get a little oversaturated in some regards, even though I think he's been absolutely brilliant this year. He's been in fantastic matches. This is where you and I will differ. I think Jericho can handle being on TV. Maybe not as much as you're going to have this past night, but I can see that being the case. I don't think Jericho's bad. I don't think he sucks. However, and Bandito is amazing. He's one of the most talented wrestlers on the planet. He made a name for himself. If you watch the match, he didn't disappoint. He did everything he needed to do. But the reality is no one gives a fuck about Bandito except hardcore professional wrestling fans. Nobody cared. Nobody cared to continue to watch your product. And this is not the first time you've done this. You've closed your show time after time after time, trying to build stars, don't get me wrong. But are you really trying to build Bandito? Are you trying to build, and I forget, I do forget her name, but the former Ring of Honor Women's Champion, she lost to, I forget her name, Raquel Rodriguez?
Mercedes
Martinez. Sorry,
yeah.
Raquel Rodriguez. Mercedes Martinez. No one needed to see that match because no one really knew who the hell the Ring of Honor. I forgot her name. Very nice lady. Forgot her name, though. But no one knew and no one gave a shit. No one cares when you have these indie darlings, these Ring of Honor darlings, these people. You're not gaining more of an audience and you're not getting the ratings that you want. Bandito was great. He did that. He did everything. He showed how great his strength is with that vertical suplex spot. His athleticism, all of it. It was a fantastic match. Bandito is a special talent. But there are a lot of special talents that are going to draw 800,000 people. A lot, tons of them. Anybody, really, if you put him with Jericho, is going to get 800,000 people. Why did we care about Bandito and Jericho? What was the big thing? It's Jericho. Okay. Now, Jericho made it a very good segment because then he basically cast, which I like this. He's going to try to ruin what Ring of Honor stands for. He's going to make it the Ring of Jericho. You're hating Chris Jericho right now, but what they're trying to do is elevate the Ring of Honor championship and have this battle against Chris Jericho against a lot of Ring of Honor greats. And there's a lot of them in AEW right now. Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, and CM. Oh, never mind. Well, at least Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson.
Yes.
And several others. But the reality is that Bandito is not keeping you over 1 million people. Shit, the Elite doesn't even keep you over 1 million people by themselves. You got to start putting people like Bryan Danielson there. Have Jon Moxley close your show. He draws. Have MJF close your show.
Yes. There's 3 people perhaps that you can consider to close your shows, and you just mentioned them.
Have FTR come out and cut a promo challenging the Acclaimed to close your show. You could do anything to announce something that is something going to happen bigger than, okay, Jericho versus random indie darling. And granted, I know Bandito's a phenomenal wrestler, and I know he's a former Ring of Honor champion, and I know his accomplishments. Not really.
And I got to be honest with you too, man. That whole superplex or that suplex spot where he's holding him up, I hated that spot. It's so fake. He's going to really hold him up there, and Jericho's not going to go and like Jericho totally has to cooperate with that and is bracing himself. It's stupid. I even hate it.
What do you think about Irish whips, pal?
You know what, man? Listen, I even hate it when Pride and Powerful did it. When they like switch off and like during their tag team matches. Now you hold them. No, now you hold them. Like, this is stupid. But go on.
Well, no, that was it. I just think Tony Khan continues to book it like an indie show, and he
does.
An indie show. You're not the indies, pal.
He acts like it.
I know everything about him screaming Ring of Honor. He's Ring of Honor 2 with more money.
He's Ring of Honor with a bank account.
And honestly, look, it's just the same old thing. And I want to touch on the Saraya thing.
Please.
And I'm going to bring this up because what was my big thing? Anytime when NXT was the hot brand and you loved NXT, you told me about how great. And every time, hey, this dude could be somebody great. This dude could be amazing. This dude could be big. And what was my response? I'm not going to get excited about him because I don't have faith that Vince is going to do something with them for me to be excited about him when they get to the main roster.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, I was right.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same goddamn thing with every new woman that comes into this company. Every new woman. And you're starting to get every new free agent, to be honest. And it might be a little more of a stretch. But certainly every mid-card talent and women.
Yep.
Every single one of them gets a big little, okay, here you are. And then very rarely does anything of note, anything of remembering moments and stories. They have the big surprise. Look, Ruby Riott. I want to say Toni Storm, but she's the champion now. But the list goes on and on. Of course, and now you have Saraya, the same exact thing. Athena, she's another one. I mean, pretty much any big signing in the women's division, they get Ruby Soho is the biggest one that you can remember.
Yeah.
But every ex-WWE woman that has come over has gotten that big shine and then nothing.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. So what is going to make Saraya so much different? What will be the difference here? Because we haven't seen her in 5 years.
Yeah, and we're not even 100% sure if she's wrestling, right?
No, I think she's wrestling. She was on her way back. She mentioned several times that she wanted to wrestle again.
Okay.
The problem is that she was okay. She was good. But Was she really that big of a star? I'm sorry. I don't remember Paige being this massive, massive star. She was never on the level of a Becky, never on the level of a Charlotte, never on a level of a Sasha Banks. The game has changed now. Paige isn't even a top 5 female wrestler the last 10 years in WWE. Really not.
I'd say Bianca Blair's even better.
I'd say Alexa Bliss, to be frank, in terms of the career that they've had. I'm not talking about what you personally think. I'm talking about the career and the impact they've had on that show. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it just goes to show you. I mean, she had her moments, don't get me wrong, but she didn't change the game. She wasn't the revolution. But we're supposed to believe that she's going to come in and be this locker room leader. What happened to the Ruby Soho, Athena, and whoever else came before you?
Right.
Toni Storm, who doesn't even feel like she's your champion, even though she's supposed to be your champion right
now. Yeah.
So I can't get excited. And then you had that segment. It was like something out of a Vince McMahon botch dream where he or somebody else concocted it. Okay, just go out there and you interrupt them, and go ahead. And none of them cut good promos except for Baker.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything for that division.
Nothing.
It just made people be like, oh, that's why I. So, again, the problems are still there. I'm not convinced. AEW's been okay lately, but there's some serious problems that have not changed since all this happened. And he's starting to run out of time a little bit. So that's that. And that goes into another story that is just dropped. It dropped a couple days ago. You brought it to my attention as well, that Warner Brothers Discovery actually reached out to Cody Rhodes, independent of AEW, to see if there's something that they could do to maybe get him to stay. And he apparently said, quote, I'm leaving. It's time for me to leave the territory, or something of that nature. That's being reported by Fightful Select, our boy SRS. Gotta love him. And then later in that report also says that they're still very happy with AEW, and it certainly was not a make or break deal. I tend to think this isn't that big of a deal. I think it's a lot of clickbait, but it does go to show you. I think it actually speaks more to Cody Rhodes and his star power and what they saw in his star power. And that might, if things don't turn around with AEW, at least the way it looks that Tony is running things, that might just be another little con, no pun intended, a little con as to if we are going to keep AEW around at the price tag that they're going to want.
I mean, they're doing their due diligence without AEW to see if Cody will stay. And the reason they're doing that is because they look at that roster and like, that guy's the most marketable guy on there. Why would you want him to go?
Neck tattoo.
Even with it, he's more marketable than most of them.
No, you're 100% right. I think, again, it's one of those things where Tony started listening to the jerk-off independent wrestling community. And the fans started booing Cody. And he's like, well, maybe he's not as valuable as he thinks. His version of professional wrestling was not really in line with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omegas. And then he became kind of the odd man out in the EVP section. And then maybe some of his ideas Tony didn't like anymore. Also, Tony wanted to be more of the spokesperson for AEW instead of having Cody be that guy. And I think Tony didn't think he was as valuable as he is. And now he's going to shove it right down AEW's throat when he becomes the biggest star in the industry, which is going to happen within the next 2 years.
It's definitely going to happen. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how this sort of change. And again, it's like when I read that, it's in the past, but it's also an indicator where Warner Brothers is sort of second guessing what Tony's deciding to do and seeing if they can maybe build a bridge and maybe broker something back there, because they're like, hey, we like this guy. He's on a couple of different shows of ours. This is like a good way to sort of branch out and then branch into AEW with different audiences. But now he's gone. So, yeah, it's definitely it was interesting sort of seeing that bit come across there.
I tell you what, very interesting times. But I will say this: the time of this, I think this is if this was story broke 3 weeks ago, really almost any time of 2022, other than now, I don't think it's as big of a story. This is kind of a calm little time after all the shit that went down with the Elite. WWE is now full force beat with Triple H there, so there's not a lot of craziness going on there. This is one of the slowest times of the year in news. And I don't think this was a big news story. I really don't. But like I said, it is a slight indicator of what we're both have been worried about for some time now. Hey, if they don't start hearing some things in the spring, that's when you have to start wondering what's going to happen with their television contract.
And then especially when you look at what the last, Dynamite's ratings were this past week, less than impressive. He's not growing the audience. He's not even maintaining the audience the way that show was booked. Like, to me, if you're not going to have FDR on that show, you definitely have the Acclaimed. Like, they're the hottest thing on your show right now. You don't go put them on your secondary show. Sorry.
Well, I think he's trying to get people to like. This is the thing. Booking where he has so many fucking talented people, he just doesn't know what. He has too many toys to play with. He tries to get everybody time, and he's not telling good stories.
Right.
It comes down to telling stories. There are not consistently great stories in AEW for a minute now. That's what needs to change, Tony. And you got to put Bryan Danielson needs to be a lot more noticeable, a lot bigger spots. And maybe they're getting there, but it's the same old. I don't know what Tony has learned since the All Out Brawl Out. Did you like that?
I like that a lot. Hey, do you have any doubt that this whole thing with Jericho is going to end with him and Bryan Danielson fighting for the Ring of Honor world title?
Oh, 100%. I think that might be happening at All Out.
All Out? Okay,
no,
so not
I apologize.
Full Gear?
Full Gear.
Okay. Do you think there's any way that they would put Jericho over Samoa Joe?
That's the thing. I was going to say, Samoa, are you really going to put Samoa? I mean, he could if Jericho cheats. But that's the thing. This is a dangerous, because Jericho really, there's a couple of guys in that company that were Ring of Honor champions. Jericho has no right to beat.
Right. And Samoa Joe is one of them.
But look, Tony Khan put Jericho over the moon on a recent interview, saying stuff like he's never been better. And it's almost, he was talking almost as well about him, almost like he was CM Punk. That's how good he was talking about him.
It speaks volumes.
Yeah, because we know.
Good hugger, that Jericho.
I just think Jericho put himself in a position where he can book his own way around.
Yeah, he doesn't even have to be the EVP. He's like got as much power, and he's getting what he wants anyways.
A lot of people think he's one of the best ever. He has done a lot of good things this year. He really has. I know you don't like it and you think it's too much, but he's done a lot of, whether you like it or not, a lot of his stuff has been very popular. Clearly, Bandito main eventing with a Ring of Honor championship clearly was not one of those situations. And the other thing is, you have your world champion on earlier in the show. You're also devaluing him. It's a fucking stupid way you book a show.
And on that point, you have Moxley on the edge of a feud with Hangman, and it's a mid-card title all of a sudden because of its placement in the show.
Yeah, why isn't Hangman and Moxley going off air with that? Why aren't you doing that? Make it feel like it's supposed to be a moment. For Christ's sake, Tony. Seriously. Make me care. Oh, it's like, those two.
Yeah.
But I care a lot more about that than I care about Jericho's Ring of Honor pilgrimage or whatever he's going to do. And it'll be one of those things where, okay, Jericho's going to wrestle 5 different people in a series. That's exactly what he does now.
This is what's going to happen.
Different versions of Jericho coming at you.
He'll be a wizard. He'll be the Lionheart. He'll be the Ocho.
You're going to get the wizard next week. Oh, yeah. Well, guess what? Since I'm the Ring of Honor champion, you're going to get Le Champion.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to put you on a list. He has reinvented himself a shitload. It's actually a testament to him, to be honest with you.
But
not a lot of guys can do that. Even
really,
though the Painmaker looks like he looks like a child.
Yeah, he looks like he's an emo chick about to go to a Chemical Romance concert. And really, let's call it the way we see it. I'll call it the way I see it. He just comes up with whatever. He throws it against the wall. He goes out there and sees if it sticks, sees how long it sticks, and then he throws something else against the wall.
Yeah, he said he does that.
That's all he does.
He admits that. He freely admits that. Like stupid idiot he got over.
Right. GFY.
That did not work.
Yeah, because Moxley ruined it for him.
That was not getting over. That was stupid.
Right.
Stupid idiot was stupid too, but I like it. I was calling people stupid idiots. You stupid idiot. You stupid idiot. Just the way he said it. The list was great.
The list was his best thing that he's done in the last, how many years? I'd say last decade.
Remember the bubbly? That was a big thing.
Oh, that was that was organic too, because he just sort of spewed it out, and it was like sort of a funny line. But then remember the match with Orange Cassidy, that big thing of champagne or orange juice there? That was great.
What was it, a mimosa?
Yeah, that was good times. Just genius.
Put Cassidy over. Put Cassidy on the map.
Thank God for that.
Well, Vladi Dadi, that was a great version. Ladies and gentlemen, who hates Orange Cassidy? Vladi did, Vladi does. Who hates Tony Khan's booking and lack of FTR?
That would be me.
And the fact he fills his show with jerk-off indie stars. Vladi does. He may be wrong, he may be right. It's Vladi Dadi's Dynamite Review.
Love it.
Oh, baby. So hi, Stars and Cheap Pops. That was what we wanted to go through that. Other things going on in the world of professional wrestling right now. Again, it's kind of a slow time happening with everything. Obviously, the White Rabbit thing, which is now just becoming a wild goose chase. It's annoying me now because like every day it's the day and time or it's a coordinate or whatever, and it's nothing. Get out of here.
It's coming to a head at Extreme Rules.
It's part of pouring me now. I get it. QR codes, okay. Next week in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
But there's a Wyndham Hotel in Corbin, Kentucky.
And then Baron Corbin becomes part of his crew. I'm excited for Bray Wyatt, and by the way, it's gotten a ton of buzz. You got to give WWE credit. It's something that's out of the box. People are definitely catching a buzz about it, but if it's anybody but Bray Wyatt, I mean, Bray Wyatt was going to cause a buzz anyway, but it's kind of a cool thing. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Apparently, Extreme Rules is when he was supposed to be coming out. We'll see what happens. Seth Rollins had a couple of nice words with Ariel Arwani. Is that his name?
Yes.
Yes.
Close enough.
Well, MJF had him on his show. MJF loves him. Very respectful. MJF. I don't see him ever being respectful to anybody that he interviews except for Ariel Helwani. Got his name right that time.
Yeah.
But Seth Rollins is on there, and Seth Rollins is such a good, likable guy. Out of character when he's not laughing like a douche.
He's marketable when he's like that, right?
Yeah, when he's not laughing, I absolutely. First of all, he's my favorite bell-to-bell guy in WWE, and I've said that for a couple of years now.
Yep.
I think he's done the best work of any professional wrestler in WWE outside of Roman.
Yep.
Which is interesting what he said. He comes out and he has said that he has never been put in a position to be the man. Even when he had his first title run, he was just holding a place for when Roman is ready. A lot of weird sour grapes coming for Seth Rollins. I'm not saying he's leaving WWE, but he basically said he doesn't know if he's ever going to be a guy that the company will look at. Is he always going to be Edge to Cena or Macho Man to Hogan? Is he always going to be that guy to Roman? And it sounded like he was a little frustrated about it. He also might be posturing for a little bit of a bidding war himself.
Oh, definitely. He's definitely doing that. You have to do that if you're him. But even that comment where he's like, is he Macho compared to Hogan? You look at how history and like Father Time has treated that rivalry. Macho's way more over because people have looked back on it like, man, that guy was more talented, and Hogan just buried himself with his mouth and his actions.
I mean, dropping the N-bomb probably helped that situation.
But also, yeah, that helped. But also, just as far as being a pro wrestler and being talented and cutting crazy promos and whatnot, Macho was ahead of his time, and he's still appreciated.
I'm trying to see Seth Rollins. No, I'm with you. Macho Man Randy Savage. But that's not the way that Seth is looking at it. And same way Savage didn't look at it. Savage, as beloved as he is and whatever, Savage always thought he was better than Hulk Hogan. And he always thought that it was bullshit Hogan got that. And that was one of his deals.
Yeah.
It's not terrible to be that guy. I mean, is Edge a jerk? Is Edge a scrub? I mean, there's a litany of them, but one of Ric Flair's rivals.
Steamboat.
Steamboat. It never really, Sting is a little bit more transcended wrestling a little bit more than that, but Steamboat's a great example of that. Terry Funk's a great example of that. But at the end of the day, it's not bad, but Seth feels like he should be the guy. Seth feels like he should be the most marketed guy. Seth feels like he should be considered the number one guy in the company. And he even mentioned on the Stone Cold, he said, hey, look, with everything going on right now in the world, we'll see what happens with my contract. He said that his daughter's going to be 3 or 4 when his contract is up. And I think she's 2 now, right?
Yeah.
Year and a half. She's going to be 2, I guess, early next year. So Seth's not, I think 2024, his contract is up, but it was very interesting. He talked about Matt Riddle and how he just never liked the way he did his business. That's that. So there's a lot of real heat there. He certainly, and it has something to do with with Riddle's wife or ex-wife getting into a Twitter beef with Becky Lynch, and then Riddle added with it on Twitter. So there's a lot of legit heat there, and it was a pretty open and honest interview. So I was excited about listening to that. Any thoughts on if Seth Rollins would ever dream about leaving WWE? He also said in that same interview he plans on being there for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think he ever leaves. Because it's honestly, I don't see him or Becky leaving. Really, if one leaves, I would assume that the other would consider leaving as well. You and I just discussed the women's division there. Unless something cataclysmic happens at AEW in terms of the women's division, why would she go over there and just be amongst the mid-carders, if you will?
They're not going to get any major wrestling star. They just wouldn't give Saraya a contract.
Yeah,
at least a big enough one.
Right. And then even, you look at Andrade. Andrade's already starting a free Idolo campaign. That means no Charlotte Flair's coming there.
Well, he's got to leave. He has a mask. His career with AEW against 10 next week.
I'm excited.
I think 10 loses. I think this is just El Idolo fucking with people.
I think he's unhappy.
He's on TV more than most.
I don't think he's necessarily happy though. He's also made comments of the pizza guy being there getting time.
Oh, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him. It's just it's incredible to me. We already talked about it.
Yeah.
But WWE right now, pretty good setting up Bianca versus Bayley. I think Bayley might win, but we'll do our Extreme Rules later this week. We'll do our very first pay-per-view. Vladi Dadi is now the current Purple Nurple champion with a shellacking of last quarter. I think you won winning by 3 matches.
Yeah.
But you had it pretty much won going into the final pay-per-view weekend.
Yep.
And so congratulations to the Purple Nurple champion. We open with Extreme Rules. We'll get together later on in the week for that. So check that out. 84 subscribers now, Vladi Dadi.
We are climbing. It's great. And one thing, let's touch base on one other last thing here at WWE. I gotta say, the whole T-shirt thing with Sammy was one of the better segments I've seen in pro wrestling in a while. I was laughing out loud at different aspects of this thing, and just even caught myself rewatching it just to like see little different nuances. And I always confuse him. Which is the one that is angry with Sammy? Is that Jay Uso?
Jay.
Okay, so Jay is playing his part so damn good, and at the end of the day, is probably going to be right about his thoughts about Sammy, right? I just loved how they did that. You're watching all their reactions, how defeated Sammy was, and how he looked when Roman asked him to remove that Bloodline shirt.
You ain't never gonna wear a Bloodline shirt again.
And how the crowd was sad. They were like, oh, like they were like you, like they ripped. It was like Roman ripped their hearts out because Sammy wasn't part of the Bloodline. And just for Sammy to go, and then I got to preface this too. I really liked the entrance and the introduction to Solo Sikoa as well. How he was sent there by the elders. That was mentioned by the wise man, and them building him as an enforcer. It's a thing of beauty. I really like what they're doing with that guy, man. And I love how they're sort of buddying him up with Sammy. So getting back to this, where he goes and gives, Jay goes and rips that shirt off of him. Get it off! Get it! Just screaming at, just berating him. And then, then Roman's like, all right, you're going to wear this shirt now. It gives him that shirt. And you just see Jay's face turn. And then Sammy's exuberance and how he goes to Jimmy and they start doing that handshake together. I was laughing out loud at that, man. And just the hugs involved, and just when he finally hugged Roman, it was great, man. It was one of my favorite segments I've seen in a while.
Sammy's gold, and it's so good to see him getting this opportunity. And let's not also forget, former best friend walked by later on in the night and said, "You got to get a new shirt, buddy."
Yeah, that was on the following, was it Raw or SmackDown? It was on the same show. It was like the following week. And
it was on this past SmackDown.
And what's interesting with that, and what's interesting with that is that Sammy had tweeted out, because they went and beat up Madcap Moss and Ricochet for like making fun of like him being a part of the Bloodline and him wearing the shirt. Sammy tweeted out like, "Hey, if you don't mess with the gear, like with my shirt and my gear," and who made fun of it? Kevin Owens of all people. And he sort of was like okay with it. That's gonna stick in Roman's craw. He's gonna be annoyed about that because Roman has already made a comment about Kevin Owens.
No, that's where you're going to have that issue, and Sammy's going to have to choose between the Bloodline, and he's going to do his best to smooth it over.
Yeah.
But Kevin Owens has no fucks to give, and he's a big baby face right now.
Yeah. And
so that's not going to happen. And it's a combustible situation. And what do you do? What will Sammy do? Again, it's really good storytelling. A lot of people are thinking it's going to lead to Sammy and Kevin facing the Usos for the tag team titles. Triple H is doing a really good job of making these stories starting to build. And that's what I said. We're going to know how good he is 6 months right around WrestleMania time if we are really excited about a lot of the matches opposed to celebrity match, and 3 or 4 programs that were kind of pushed together except for one.
Yep.
Triple H is setting a lot of seeds for WrestleMania right now. That's what he's doing. He probably knows exactly what he has going on for WrestleMania already, and he's setting those seeds then. Whereas the last couple of years, WrestleMania as a card wasn't set till weeks in advance. Triple H knows exactly where he's going right now, and it's great seeing these stories build. So kudos to Papa H.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels different. And, I texted you when I was watching, I think it was Gargano and Kevin Owens against Alpha Academy. And there was just something different about Kevin Owens' energy during that match. Like, so into it. It was just like, I haven't seen him, like, I really exert himself in such a way. Like, it was like contagious with the crowd and him. And even like him playing off Johnny Gargano. And again, like, I respect Johnny. I'm not his greatest fan. I've been entertained by him, but he's fitting a nice role here. And even like the way he's fitting in between Drew McIntyre and Owens and acting as like the go-between, like the peacemaker there. They're setting this up really nice. So I'm loving what I'm seeing with Kevin Owens at this moment. It's really good.
Hey, Triple H is taking care of business and he's putting the right people in. You gotta love it. So, all right, that's all we got else going on in WWE and AEW. We will have a slight review of all the action in New Japan this past weekend. We'll talk specifically about FTR and Aussie Open once we watch it. And we're going to also have later in the week, we are going to have our Extreme Rules predictions, where I try to retake my Purple Nurple, the High Spots Cheap Pops Pick'ems Championship. Vladi Dadi, anything else before we get out of here tonight on the High Spots and Cheap Pops?
Now you said it all, man. You gave me a jingle. I mean, how can a grown man be any more happy?
You may be wrong. You may be right. We got Vladi Dadi Dynamite. Thank you so much for listening to High Spots and Cheap Pops, watching us here on YouTube. Like us, subscribe, do all that crazy stuff. Check us out on Facebook, High Spots and Cheap Pops. Check me out at Silicon Valley on Twitter. Check me out, Silicon Steve Valley, on TikTok. And is there another one? Instagram? Yeah.
Yeah. We're all over the place.
And also check out for our writing here at the Everyday Sports, at theeverydayfan.com. Check us out there. You have listened to High Spots and Cheap Pops. For Vladi Dadi, this is Silicon Steve Valley. Here endeth the lesson.